and the weight of unspoken horrors. It's 2024, and the room is a pressure cooker of emotions. Reporters crammed shoulder to shoulder, their cameras flashing like distant lightning storms, capturing every quiver of the accused's lip. At the center stands Linda Thompson, a woman in her 60s now, her once vibrant eyes hollowed by years of secrets. She grips the wooden railing of the defendant's box, her knuckles white as bone. The judge's gavel hovers, ready to seal a fate decades in the making. "Do you understand the charges against you?" the judge intones, his voice echoing like a tolling bell. Murder, concealment, the annihilation of her own family. Linda's whisper cuts through the silence. Guilty. But this plea isn't born of remorse. It's a calculated escape from the shadow of the death penalty. As gasps ripple through the crowd, we pull back, the scene dissolving into mist, rewinding the clock to a sun-drenched summer day in 1986. What drove a mother to erase her husband and child from the world? And how did one overlooked clue, unearthed nearly 4 decades later, shatter the illusion of a perfect tragedy? The camera lingers on faded photographs. A smiling family of 3, posed against the backdrop of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Michael Thompson, tall and rugged, with a mechanic's calloused hands and a father's gentle smile. Beside him, little Sarah, 9 years old, her pigtails bouncing, eyes sparkling with the innocence of adventure. And Linda, the wife and mother, her expression a mask of domestic bliss. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming, fissures that would swallow them whole. For years, this image represented a mystery. A father and daughter vanished on a routine road trip, leaving behind a grieving widow. Search parties combed the wilderness, headlines, CPPs, creamed of foul play or accident. But answers evaporated like morning dew. The case grew cold, filed away in dusty archives, a ghost story whispered in Charlotte's quiet neighborhoods. Until 2024, when a single damning piece of evidence resurfaced, pointing not to strangers or misfortune, but to the heart of the home itself. How could love twist into something so lethal? As we delve into the shadows, prepare to confront the unthinkable. Sometimes, the danger isn't out there in the vast, unforgiving mountains. It's waiting patiently at the kitchen table. Tension builds as we cut to archival footage. Grainy news reels from the 80s, helicopters whirring over dense forests, volunteers calling out names that echo unanswered. "Michael! Sarah!" The words hang in the air, a plea lost to time. But now, with the courtroom confession still ringing, questions swarm like flies. What really happened on that fateful road trip? Was it an accident, a kidnapping, or something far more sinister? The truth, buried deep, is about to claw its way out, revealing a web of lies, betrayal, and unimaginable loss. Hold your breath. The story unfolds. In the bustling suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, the Thompson family appeared as ordinary as apple pie on a summer picnic table. Michael Thompson, a hard-working auto mechanic, spent his days under the hoods of cars, his nights dreaming of open roads and family escapades. Born in 1950, he was the epitome of the American everyman. Reliable, affable, with a laugh that could fill a room. He met Linda in high school, a whirlwind romance that blossomed into marriage by 1975. Linda, sharp-witted and ambitious, worked as a secretary at a local law firm, her days filled with typing memos and harboring quiet resentments. Their union produced Sarah in 1977, a bright-eyed girl who adored her father's stories of far-off places and her mother's homemade cookie. But beneath this veneer of normalcy, storm clouds gathered. The marriage, once passionate, began to fracture under the weight of unspoken grievances. Michael wanted more children, a bigger house, a life of simple joys. Linda craved independence, resenting the domestic chains that bound her. Arguments escalated from whispers to shouts, often behind closed doors, but loud enough for neighbors to exchange knowing glances. Custody battles loomed like distant thunder. Michael confided in friends about Linda's growing detachment. Her late nights at work, that smelled of something more than overtime. "She's pulling away," he'd say, his voice laced with worry. Red flags waved subtly at first. A bruise on Linda's arm dismissed as a clumsy fall. Michael's weary eyes after heated disputes. Domestic violence simmered, not always physical, but emotional. A slow erosion of trust. Sarah, caught in the crossfire, became the unwitting pawn. She idolized her dad, begging for road trips to the Blue Ridge Mountains, where they could camp under stars, away from the tension at home. "Daddy makes everything fun," she'd tell her school friends, her small voice tinged with hope. As the years ticked by, the fractures deepened. By 1985, divorce papers were drafted. Custody hearings scheduled. Linda fought fiercely for Sarah, claiming Michael was unstable, his job too demanding. But whispers circulated. Linda's affair with a co-worker, her mounting debts from secret spending. Neighbors recalled odd incidents, a shattered window after a fight, Sarah's tear-streaked face peeking from her bedroom. Foreshadowing hung heavy. Michael's brother later remembered a phone call where Michael said, "If something happens to me, look at Linda." The family teetered on the edge, the air thick with unspoken dread. Sarah, innocent and loving, bridged the gap, her laughter a fragile glue. But in the summer of 1986, as plans for a father-daughter road trip materialized amid the custody storm, the stage was set for catastrophe. Little did anyone know, the monsters weren't lurking in the woods. They were woven into the fabric of their daily lives. July 1986 dawned hot and hazy in Charlotte, the kind of summer day that promises adventure but hides peril in its humidity. Michael, eager to escape the marital battlefield, packed his old Ford station wagon with camping gear, tents, fishing rods, and Sarah's favorite stuffed bear. "Just you and me, kiddo," he told her, ruffling her hair as they waved goodbye to Linda from the driveway. Linda stood there, arms crossed, her smile tight as piano wire. "Be safe," she called, her voice flat, eyes unreadable. The trip was meant to be a weekend getaway to the Blue Ridge Mountains, a chance for father and daughter to bond amid towering pines and rushing streams. They headed north, the road unfurling like a ribbon through the Appalachian wilderness. Sarah chattered excitedly about s'mores and stargazing, oblivious to the storm brewing back home. But as the sun dipped low, painting the mountains in fiery hues, something went terribly wrong. According to Linda's later account, Michael called her from a payphone at a roadside diner, saying they'd arrived safely at the campsite. "Sarah's having a blast," he reportedly said. That was the last anyone heard from them. Night fell, and the forest swallowed their traces. Back in Charlotte, Linda waited and waited. 2 days passed before she reported them missing, claiming she'd assumed they extended the trip. "Michael's impulsive like that," she told police, her eyes dry, voice steady. Suspicion flickered, but without evidence, it faded. Search teams scoured the trails, dogs sniffing for scents that led nowhere. The station wagon was found abandoned at a trailhead, doors unlocked, keys in the ignition. as if they'd stepped out for a hike and never returned. Inside, Sarah's bear sat forlorn on the seat, a silent witness. What really happened that night? The truth, finding pieced together, years later, paints a chilling portrait of premeditation. Linda, driven by rage over the impending divorce and fear of losing custody, had followed them in secret. Under the cover of darkness, as Michael and Sarah slept in their tent, she struck. A single gunshot to Michael, muffled by the wilderness. Sarah, waking in terror, met a similar fate, strangled, her small body no match for maternal fury. Linda dragged the bodies deep into the underbrush, burying them shallowly beneath leaves and earth. She drove the wagon back to the trailhead, staging the disappearance. Returning home, she wove a web of lies. Tearful interviews, pleas for their return. They must have gotten lost, she'd sobbed to cameras, her performance Oscar-worthy. Cliffhangers loomed in every detail: the untouched campsite, the missing weapons from Michael's collection. The night stretched eternal, a void where love died and deception was born. The disappearance ignited a firestorm in Charlotte. Police launched an immediate search, helicopters chopping the air, volunteers combing miles of rugged terrain. "It's like they vanished into thin air," one detective muttered, frustration etching his face. Initial leads pointed to accidents, a fall from a cliff, a bear attack. But no bodies, no blood. Media frenzy ensued. Headlines blared, "Father-daughter duo lost in mountains," news vans clogging the streets. Community shock rippled outward. Vigils lit candles in Sarah's name, neighbors hugging their own children tighter. Linda played the grieving wife impeccably, her interviews laced with just enough emotion to seem genuine. But cracks appeared, inconsistencies in her timeline, her calm demeanor raising eyebrows. False leads piled up like autumn leaves. A sighting in Tennessee turned out to be a look-alike family. Tire tracks near the site matched nothing. Investigators dug into the family's history, custody battles, domestic disputes, but without hard evidence. Suspicion simmered low. Michael's siblings voiced doubts. "Linda always seemed off," his brother said. His voice trembled. With unspoken accusation. Years turned to decades. The case went cold, filed under unsolved mysteries. Periodic revivals came with new technology, DNA sweeps, ground-penetrating radar, but yielded nothing. The community moved on, though whispers lingered in barbershops and diners. What if she did it? Then, in 2024, the breakthrough. During a home renovation at Linda's old Charlotte residence, workers unearthed a hidden safe in the basement. Inside, Michael's wallet, Sarah's locket, and a blood-stained journal detailing the murders. "I had no choice," one entry read, chilling in its matter-of-fact tone. Forensic tests confirmed the blood as Sarah's. The clue changed everything, exposing Linda's lies. Police swarmed, arresting her at her quiet retirement home. Emotional reactions exploded. Michael's siblings wept in relief and rage. Sarah's cousins, now adults, confronted the aunt they'd trusted. Neighbors recoiled. "She lived among us, a monster in plain sight." The discovery peeled back layers of deception, turning a cold case scorching hot. The courtroom in downtown Charlotte buzzed like a hive. Reporters jostling for seats, cameras flashing in a relentless barrage. It was spring 2024, and the air hummed with justice delayed but not denied. Linda Thompson, frail yet defiant, entered in shackles, her gray hair pulled back, face a map of weathered secrets. The prosecution laid out the evidence like a mosaic of horror. The journal's confessions, DNA matches, timelines that shredded her alibis. This was no accident, the DA thundered, but a calculated execution born of jealousy and control. Defense attorneys argued diminished capacity, citing years of alleged abuse, but the weight of proof crushed their case. As witnesses took the stand, emotions ran raw. Michael's brother, voice cracking, recounted the family's agony. "We searched for years, hoping. Now we know the truth. It's worse than any nightmare." Sarah's cousins, tears streaming, spoke of lost childhoods haunted by absence. Linda, under cross-examination, remained stoic, her muttered responses barely audible. Facing the death penalty, she pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, a plea deal sparing her life, but condemning her to life without parole. "I'm sorry," she whispered from the stand, but her eyes betrayed no true remorse, only resignation. The judge's gavel fell like a final breath, sentencing her to decay in prison walls. Reactions poured in, cheers from some, sobs from others. Michael's siblings found hollow victory. Justice, but no peace. The media circus intensified, dissecting every detail. In that packed room, amid flashing lights and whispered judgments, a chapter closed, but the scars remained eternal. In the wake of the trial, grief hung over the Thompson family like a perpetual fog. Michael's siblings, aged by decades of uncertainty, gathered in quiet mourning, scattering what remained of his ashes, recovered from the mountain grave, alongside Sarah's in the Blue Ridge peaks she loved. "She always said the mountains felt like home," one aunt recalled, her voice breaking as wind carried the dust away. No peace came easily. Nightmares persisted, questions of why echoing unanswered. Linda, from her prison cell, offered muttered apologies in rare interviews, but they rang hollow, fueling more anguish. Memorials sprouted in Charlotte, a park bench etched with Sarah's name, a yearly vigil drawing crowds to remember the innocent. Society grappled with the fallout. Books like Shadows in the Home dissected the case. Podcasts debated domestic violence and custody failures. How did we miss the signs? Experts pondered on air, sparking national conversations on hidden abuse. Debates raged, tighter custody laws, better support for fractured families. The story became a cautionary tale, etched into cultural memory. Yet, as the sun sets over the Blue Ridge, a haunting reflection lingers. Sometimes, the monsters aren't in the shadows. They're in our homes. And the greatest mystery is the human heart itself. Fade to black, the echo of a child's laughter lost forever, leaving us unsettled, reflective, forever changed.